Alright, bringing up the live stream. Alright, so hello and good evening to everybody who's on the Twitch chat tonight, or going to be seeing this later in the VODs. Because, good news, I noticed that we're getting a couple of VOD viewers who are watching this after the fact. Yeah.
That's exciting.
We're getting about three to five views every week from just people who are just watching it later. You know, not picking up the live stream, but watching it later in the week.
Well, hail and well met, friends.
All right. Well, today we are going to be doing a kind of a pre-stream to my D&D weekly sessions, where they came out with and published the official rules for the RPGSports rules. You can find these on their website, rpgsports.tv, or you can go to their Twitter at RPGSports on Twitter and find the rules PDF right there. Everything is laid out for you. So their first official tournament session was on Saturday. I did end up watching that, and, well, it was a little, let's just say, different to watch. Now, the rules, I will say, are very well structured, and for a very first time doing something like this, there was going to be hiccups.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Hi, everybody. My name's Rob. I play in Kurt's campaign as Rondell Moonwhisper. I'm also a lifelong D&D player. So I'll be chatting along with Kurt. We have a lot of agreements and a couple of disagreements on the rule set and characters that are available for the RPG sports structure. And we thought it'd be interesting to come to you guys, the people that watch our stream, and give you guys our view on how this is going to go, because, you know, one day we might participate. So
yeah, actually, I actually had a small conversation with the guy who was the GM for the official stream, which was pretty interesting, talking about some of the things I noticed while watching the stream. So, background for me, I've been playing D&D since the age of 12, so I have about close to 15 to 20 years experience in Dungeons & Dragons as mostly a GM. I think I've only played in a total of 5 campaigns my entire life. But from a GM's perspective, the rules are looking pretty solid.
yeah, definitely. I would agree with that. I think that the DM did a really good job at trying to structure everything. I did sit down and watch it with, not with you, but I watched it when you linked it to me. I think it did a very good job. I think a couple of things weren't really thought the whole way through, as far as the structure is concerned.
Yeah, my main issue was, so the match was between Team Kobold and Team Mindflayer. Team Kobold looked to be relatively experienced D&D players, while Team Mindflayer, to my knowledge, was a Super Smash Bros. Professional team and had very, very minor, like, touching of Dungeons & Dragons. Like, most of them were brand new players.
Yeah, you could tell there was a lot of struggle at finding things. You could tell there was a lot of catch up on Team Mindflayer's part on that, but you know, I think that comes from just the idea of there's always going to be, in any competitive level, there's always going to be a group of more experienced players and a group of less experienced players. Any sports teams is exactly the same. It all comes down to practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, and I think as the RPG Sports D&D section, because they said they're going to do other games too, other than just D&D. The D&D section, I think it's going to expand and grow quickly and be able to attract more experienced players, especially once they start reaching out to the community to grab more experienced either players or teams. I'm hoping that they reach out and try to grab teams or maybe have preliminaries of some sort.
Yeah, that'd be smart. I think that would weed out a lot of the problems that we were seeing today. So just to give a um, basic overview to the general public on how this works. For those of you that have played Dungeons and Dragons, obviously you have your Dungeons and Dragons character you've played over and over again. What this consists of is a list of pre-generated characters that you get to choose from to compete with against another team. The teams are 4v4, and we will be going over the list of pre-generated characters, our likes and dislikes about those pre-generated characters, as well as a little bit about how we think about the structure. So the first phase is doing a draft. So there is a pick ban. Each team gets to ban one of the characters on the list of pre-generated characters, and we'll probably go over that first. Does that sound good to you, Kurt?
Yeah, it sounds good. So how it's following what I refer to as the standard pick ban for esports. You'll see it in Smite, you'll see it in League of Legends. Basically, any of the MOBAs or esports that you see nowadays uses this standard pick ban formula. So each team gets one ban, then Team A picks one, Team B picks two, Team A picks one, then each team gets a ban, and then back and forth again to who gets the final, until all 8 characters are picked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one thing that I was surprised about was I was very surprised about the characters that they chose to ban. As a matter of fact, when I looked at the list in which they chose to ban, I thought that they made kind of unusual choices. They weren't really based. They're based on the power of the individual character, I think, is what their thinking was, on both sides. I think they were thinking about the general power of the individual class itself, and not how to ban based on a team cohesive structure going forward in the arena combat.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think right now there is an established meta right now. Obviously, with it being the first match and people just getting the hands on the rules. But most picks, the reason you do pick and ban is that, oh, they have this character. We'll counter that character with this one. And since that hasn't been established yet, it was more, as you said, oh, this character seems powerful, I don't want to deal with him.
Yeah, I agree. So after the drafting phase is complete, you sort of log into structure in Roll20, and you start rolling into different rounds of magic items available on the map and various other structures like that. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Kurt?
Yeah, sure. So, from what I saw and what I've read here, you basically have a 45-minute match where each player gets a turn following after the pre-roll initiatives. So the winner is the people who either knock out the most players first. If they end with both teams having with no players eliminated, with still players still on the field, then it goes to most damage dealt, and then last but not least, if they're tie on that, then it goes to whoever has the most health left. Which for D&D, that is a very solid structure for determining a competitive situation, in my opinion. Especially with damage dealt going before who has the most health left, because you can have a team of almost all mages. Now, I do not suggest this, even by looking at a standard meta or an idea of a meta being built here. But in that situation, where you're having a team of like 4 mages, you're locking yourself out of that third round tiebreaker.
Yeah, there are a number of structures of tactics we could go over as well. I think it's important to note that, keep in mind, healing is a major factor to points at the end of the game when it comes to this, right? So we're talking about the idea of having druids, paladins, and really having no way to stop them from accumulating points very close to the end of the game.
Agreed. Anyone who can self-heal towards the end of the game is going to be essential if the teams notice, oh, hey, we're not going to be able to knock each other out. We're about 5 minutes out here. Let's just start healing up and backing away from this, which could be a viable strategy. Also, a good thing to note is there's no death saving throws in RPG sports. If you are knocked out, your character's unconscious. If you hit 0, you're unconscious. If you are hit with a healing spell, then you are returned back to play from your spawn point with the amount of health that you were just healed with.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting too. So, what did you think of the magic items for the environmental?
Yeah. So the magic items are Potion of Speed, Potion of Slipperiness, Potion of Heroism, Aura of Power. And basically, when you grab an item, there's a 1 in 8 chance of you getting one of these items. So let's go one by one and see how effective they would be. So the first one is Potion of Speed. Until the end of this match, you gain a 15-foot additional movement. Now, that could be great for positioning, especially since when we go over the heroes, you'll notice there's a lot of halflings and a lot of dwarfs on that list.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's interesting having the idea of the dwarf cleric moving faster than the other normal characters that are on the field. That could actually add a lot of really devastating potential, having your barbarian or paladin moving at an expedited rate toward you. Which, I mean, as far as team tactics go, we'll get to that, because I know we both agreed that there was a pretty egregious error made very close to the beginning of the match.
Agreed. So next item is the Potion of Heroism. Until the end of this match, you gain temporary HP for the same duration. I don't understand what the same for the. Oh, all right. You are under the effects of the Bless spell. No concentration required. So they're giving out Bless and 10 temporary HP, and that Bless is equal to 1d4 additional bonus on a spell or ability.
One thing that they didn't mention, at least in the rule set right off the bat, is if these temporary hit points actually go toward your victory hit points at the end of the game.
Oh, agreed. Also, since it's a potion, it's not. It doesn't work like the heroism spell where they regenerate after each round, or is it just 10 flat?
Yeah, that's definitely something they're going to have to look at, because I could very much see somebody who grabs this type of potion and just carries it around the field until the end, and then downs it at the end for a come from behind win of 10 points, which would be really frustrating.
Oh yeah, no, that'd be terrible. Did you see also they changed slightly how magic items are interacted with in this game?
I didn't see that actually. Did
Okay.
they?
Yep.
Where
So
did they change that
to
at?
acquire it, they take a bonus action to grab the item. Then they can use it as a free action.
Oh, that's troubling.
That is very because you're disregarding what do you guys refer to it as action economy for using an item.
Yeah, that's essentially, you can just freely use it whenever you feel like it.
Yeah, but I believe it still at least has to be on your turn. So the third one is the Potion of Slipperiness. This potion's container, blah blah blah, that's fluff. When you drink it, the enemy have disadvantage on attack rolls. So basically, it's dispel invisibility without you actually being invisible.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this spell. I could really see that being... well, sorry, not spell, but potion. I really, out of the different items that you can get, I think that this one is probably the one I like the least, which I'm gonna think a lot of people are gonna probably disagree with me with, but I can go over that if you want.
I understand. I'm not actually on the same page as you. I see the advantage in having the opponent have disadvantage against you, but the clause that it ends when you attack or cast a spell makes it way less useful than any of the other magical items. It's the only one that just disappears.
Right, and I also think that in the scenario that we were watching, in this sort of closed arena, everybody is fighting sort of thing. Let's keep in mind that this is attack rolls. So this doesn't account for using magic as far as that's concerned. Well, most magic anyway. And let's also keep in mind that typically your fighter or your frontline sort of, your cleric, your paladin, your fighter, your barbarian, if they're really that worried about taking damage in this structure, they want to oppose disadvantage, they can just simply take the dodge action.
Camera's fine. It's off. Agreed. Alright, so the last item is great. It's okay, actually. I'm okay with it, but it's still a one-use ability. Until the end of this match, you receive one use of inspiration. Honey, my camera's not working.
Yeah, I like this one probably. I think if I knew where these were, these would probably be the ones I picked up first. Not necessarily the Potion of Speed, but the Aura of Power really makes it so that way you can...
Rob, you cut out there. Rob is having internet issues where his mic and connection to the Discord server cuts in and out randomly, and we'll have to give him a moment to catch back on.
Hello?
You're back.
Okay, sorry about that. I was saying how the Aura of Power seems like the item that makes you universally useful, and that's why I would like it probably the most out of the items. And that'd probably be the one that I gravitated for first if I knew where those items were.
Agreed. I mean, who does not like a free reroll?
Exactly. And also, I mean, out of all of them, like, yes, it would be very nice to have a universal disadvantage against everybody. It would be very nice to have the temporary hit points if they counted toward the end of game hit points. And it's also very useful to have 15 feet, but it is always going to be useful to have that one option to reroll. And that's universal in any circumstance that you do.
Agreed wholeheartedly. Alright, so let's go over the additional rules. Now, RPGSports follows all 5.0 rules, except with some very small modifications, which were talked about either earlier or being discussed at this point in time. So, first thing is on the first round of combat, all characters have their movement speed doubled. That right off puts your short, stubby-legged characters at 50 movement, and the rest of your party at 60 straight off the bat.
Yeah, one thing that I guess we could touch on it now is that this was really not taken advantage of.
Agreed. Now, what they forgot is that on the first turn, they're too far away from the enemy to do any kind of attacks. So they have basically two different choices as players during the first round. You either use your action to dash, and I don't know if it's going to be double, or double, and then, triple. So you get one additional thing. So you're either going to be moving 60 and then an additional 30, or 60 and an additional 60. But either way, that would bring the characters into combat way faster.
Yeah, and this was completely oversaw by, I think, both teams. And according to the way that the rules are written, this is all characters have their movement speed doubled. So if your base movement speed, it would be a double of your base movement speed. So every character would be able to either hang back or bridge that gap right at the beginning of the arena match. The biggest problem that we saw was that the fighters and paladins did not bridge that gap fast enough.
No one did. No one hit combat until the second to last and last rounds of that 45 minutes because they went to time.
Yeah, and maybe they just didn't see that part of the rule set, but yeah, I mean that turn one base movement speed when you only have 45 minutes on the timer to get there, and let's face it, this is an arena match, so it's kill or be killed, right? So the fact that they didn't bridge that gap immediately, if one of those teams had bridged that gap and started out dealing damage, because this doesn't mean that you're any less effective with the rest of your turn. It just means that your speed is higher.
Yes. And by taking the well, if you have a rogue in your team, they are still going to be more effective because they can use the bonus action off of their rogue ability to give them the dash. So then they'd still be able to possibly shoot with a bow or do anything else. We'll have to see if there's any rogue characters that we can look at in the pre-gens.
Yeah, I definitely think the rogues are probably gonna hit the positions that they want to be in first. I think that's the most important thing for the rogue in the beginning of one of these types of arena matches, is to hit your position immediately and start identifying secondary and tertiary positions for you to capitalize on your sneak attacks. So with that bonus round of movement, the rogues need to know where they're going. They need to get to that spot, and if they can take a shot, take a shot. But the position's more important than that.
Alright, so next point on the rules. Communication. It is assumed that all your characters are equipped with a magical sending stone, which allows them to communicate for the rest of the team. As this is a competitive format, and character versus out of character knowledge means basically nothing. As such, there is no DM inspiration or impartiality. We strongly encourage you to have a private chat, blah, blah, blah. How I would do this as a player is I would have 2 Discord channels or 2 different chat systems up. One for the GM public esport chat, and then a second one where I hit a different hotkey to communicate with my team.
I couldn't agree more. Although, in the structure of this, I would make sure that there wasn't a camera looking at me at the time, that I was talking to my team in case the opposing team had somebody that could sort of read lips or something like that. So,
Oh man, that'd be devastating.
yeah, and I'm saying that from a person that knows how to do that. So, being able to read lips could, I mean, that's why in a lot of, football and other collegiate sports, they usually put something in front of their face, despite the fact that they're having those one-on-one conversations with other people. It's just another added level to be aware of.
Alright. Next up is turn timers. So each player gets a total of 45 seconds to declare their actions on their turn. So they do not. So you have 45 seconds to declare what you're doing. Then you actually do it. So you can declare, I'm moving in this direction. I'm going to cast this spell. As long as you get that in within the 45 seconds, you're good. Then you can move and do the rest of the measuring and all that good stuff in there.
I think personally, out of a lot of the rules that I agree with and disagree with, I think I agree with the way that this is structured probably the most. I think that this needs to be in every D&D campaign because it really forces the players to be aware constantly that they are relied upon to make their action and do what they need to do, and not sort of dilly-dally around.
Agreed. I think it takes care of 2 different issues even on a standard D&D table. Number one, it kind of cuts off those players who have what I call analysis paralysis, where they're overthinking their action and they spend my turn, your turn, and 3 other turns trying to figure out what they're going to do. And it gets those people who are not paying attention and on their phones off their damn phones.
Yeah, I agree. I think that whereas maybe this isn't the best rule for in-person D&D sessions, I think that for this sort of setting, it's crucial.
Alright, so the next one is not really a rules discussion. It's basically stating that they have somebody who works on the Roll20 and handles HP and status effects on Roll20 for them, so players do not have to worry about that. So not really a rule discussion. Line of sight, they just say use the range tool, and the DM has final word ruling on that. So once again, not really a rules thing, except there is no cover and there is no hide.
And this just adds to what I was talking about before, making sure that the rogue is in a pivotal position and establishes that position and secondary positions at the beginning of the match. Positioning of utilizing as a wizard, as a caster, as a cleric, making sure you're in their proper position before the fight starts is probably the most crucial thing that you can do in this campaign, in this setting.
Agreed. All right, so only 2 more points, and then we can go over one more thing before we hit characters. Readied actions are disabled in this format, so you cannot declare held actions. So you can't go, I'm holding my action until someone enters that door. So that is not a thing, and I think that is a great idea for a competitive situation. Otherwise, you'd have people standing in goddamn place.
I agree. I think that kind of adds a lot to it. I think it removes a couple of I think it removes some important pieces of D&D combat, though.
Yeah, I could see that, but I could also see, since you have to declare to the GM, I'm watching that door, other players would go, well, if I'm just not going to walk through that goddamn door.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so in the forum where, you're readying an action would openly cause the opposing team to avoid that topic. I think that could eliminate a lot of potential feints and bluffs that could happen on the part of one team, saying, for example, as soon as somebody comes through that door, I'm shooting my bow. I think it's important for a character like a barbarian or a character like a fighter to assess, like, okay, if I open this door, can I take this shot? Is it worth taking this arrow to then chase this person down and attack them?
Yeah, I can see that. All right, so let me see. Last but not least, it's not really a big thing. We already covered the health and people reviving. So it's timeout. If someone gets disconnected, they have 5 minutes basically to reconnect. Your team can call a timeout for 3 minutes to try to discuss tactics if they wanted to, which is obviously going to be useful, and it happens in esports all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say on this one. Pretty bread and butter. I agree with it. I think it's a good idea. I think it's very important that they came up with a rule set for people that get disconnected, since I deal with it kind of on a daily basis right now.
Yeah, exactly. So last thing before we look at characters is the things that happen on the map itself. So as Rob said, round 1 to 3, magic items spawn on the map. After that, it doesn't look like they continue to spawn. Round 4, nothing happened. Round 5, there will be traps on the map. And last but not least, round 6, environmental hazards will become active on the map, forcing players into a tight quarters situation.
Yeah, I guess I understand the environmental hazard rule. I think they need to restructure this as a whole.
I agree on some of it, not all of it. I see the point of it, but I also see that what could happen is a team could go, oh, well, we have the highest HP. We'll just hang back in our little corner and make the most uninteresting match in the history of Dungeons & Dragons.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of hit the nail on the head on that one. Environmental hazards becoming active at the end of the match, kind of as the last thing to happen, I don't agree with that. I think that traps and hazards should be probably from turn 4 to turn 6. I think that would make the game a little bit more interesting and make it a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, I would say like activate traps turn 4 and 5, and then turn 5 the environmental hazard starts to creep in, and then turn 6 it's fully on.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good structure.
Alright,
Yeah.
let's go to our bread and butter now, which is the characters themselves.
All right, so did you want me to just read them off to you?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, we can just list off. So I found it interesting that they have multiples of some classes, but not all classes.
Yeah, I knew we were going to end up touching on that. I also don't like that there are some races that are only represented one time. For example, gnome. I don't like that tiefling is represented twice and gnome is only represented once. Seeing as tieflings are supposed to be a much rarer race than gnomes are in
there's also
general.
only a single halfling.
Yeah, I'm not. And of all things, the halfling is a bard. Like, I understand that, and that's very fitting. But I would have rather had a halfling rogue on this list than I would a halfling bard.
Also, do you think that halfling port was there for a balance issue due to halfling luck, and that's why it's not in a combat class?
Possibly, but with halfling luck, you get to reroll one die regardless per round. So it's actually, I can understand why you wouldn't want to use it as a rogue, or you wouldn't want that in the game as a rogue. But if you're going to give somebody spell casting, they're going to be rolling more dice in that regard anyway.
Oh yeah, valid point. All right, so let's start off with the top, which I don't know how to pronounce that. Roll Venom.
I don't think you have to. Let's do this. This will make our lives easier. Let's just start at the top. Since they're all a different race class combination, we'll just start off by identifying them as the Tiefling Paladin or the Dwarf Paladin, and then move our way down.
All right, so Tiefling Paladin. All right, so stat line looks pretty solid. I mean, with a -1 dex, that's definitely not the kind of paladin I'm used to seeing with you playing Rondal.
Yeah. Being a dex-based paladin brings a lot of very useful things to the table. But you know my personal opinion on that. I do think the charisma is good, but I think it's a little high.
I mean, yeah, we'll have to see. You know, we haven't looked at the whole character, so there might be a reason why they're leaning heavily on their spell casting, which would be very, very silly for a paladin, in my opinion. But
I could see it. I just don't. The spell list for a paladin is so cloistered, and I just looking at some of the initial stats, I would not have my charisma that high. It doesn't do us any justice when I could be filtering that same stat into Constitution, which ultimately means victory points at the end of the game, considering I'm going to be more than likely a fully armored class.
yeah, with a 16 AC, I think that is the highest AC in the constructed characters. But the interesting part is being a tiefling, it does get resistance to fire damage, and being a paladin, it is immune to disease. But the -1 to dex will mean that AoE attacks against this character will most likely be dealing max damage on it.
Yeah, the only mitigating benefit is that the wizards on the pick and ban list are going to be able to. They're going to have to choose their spells wisely against this paladin, because if you throw a fireball at it, you may hit him and his friend, but you're really not going to hurt the paladin devastatingly as for the cost of that high level spell. You're really going to have to pick and choose that quite carefully.
All right, so let's. First thing I'm going to look at, Rob, is what type of paladin is this guy? What oath did he swear?
Sounds good.
Oath of Devotion. So we're looking at, he has Channel Divinity Sacred Weapon, which is on his first page on his character sheet. Have you played with D&D Beyond yet?
Yeah, a little bit here and there.
Okay. So his Channel Divinity Sacred Weapon, as an action, you can imbue a weapon with a positive energy for 1 minute, so 10 rounds. The weapon is considered magical. You have +4 to attack rolls. You hit easier, but you're not dealing a lot of extra damage.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is looking at this character. This is kind of what we were worried about, right?
Yeah, this is looking like a tank straight up, with Sanctuary and Shield of Faith being two of their spells. Like, most paladins use Divine Smite, but look at, you're gonna have Sanctuary, Shield of Faith, and Hellish Rebuke as defensive measures. So you're gonna throw this character into the center of combat.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love me some Shield of Faith. Keep in mind that happens on a bonus action, so that's always a good spell to have. I think with a charisma so high, though, it's just doing itself some injustice as far as that. Maybe the plan is, does the Hellish Rebuke damage work off of your charisma, or is that just a static damage?
I do believe it is off your spellcasting ability, so yeah, it would definitely go off your Hellish Rebuke. So I think we're looking at a counter-attacking character here.
Yeah. Yeah, I can kind of see that working. I feel like this would be an interesting character to play. It's definitely somebody you would have to watch out for. With such a high armor class, the ability to rebuke back the damage, as well as most of his abilities sort of leaning toward defense. Yeah, that's kind of hard to deal with. But the thing is that your per melee hit shot could be much higher with a lower charisma score, which would make the character a little bit more balanced, because that high charisma is just for those spells and the Hellish Rebuke. So overall, turn by turn, you would be dealing more damage if that charisma was in, say, strength.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole point, I think I agree with you. I think the whole point of the 14 in charisma is to make the dex save for Hellish Rebuke 14. Moving on to its spell list, because this is like one of the few paladins I'm seeing possibly using its spells. It has 3 spell slots. It has Bless, Cure Wounds, Heroism, Protection from Good and Evil, Sanctuary, and Shield of Faith. Heroism might actually come in use for this character, but like, that's damage you could have with Smite, and that's what the problem every paladin has.
Yeah, it's speaking firsthand from experience, especially lately in five. Paying attention to what spells you're getting rid of is really important. From that spell list, I definitely would choose to toss out the Protection from Good and Evil first. Even if, let's say, somebody starts summoning something, it really doesn't do me a service so much as dumping that for, say, a smite.
Yeah, I don't think you're actually ever going to use Protection of Good and Evil, especially in this format. To be honest, I don't know why it even has it.
Yeah, I think it would be better served to have more than one charge of Cure Wounds, but
Well, remember, you
I
don't assign these to slots. You have 3 total slots available, and what spells you use is up to you when you want to cast them.
right. Yeah, there's definitely a better choice in Protection from Good and Evil. Yeah,
I mean,
I'll just leave it at that.
yeah, I would probably I was playing this character in the arena situation that you would be in with this character. I would use 2 slots up during the main combat, possibly one on a heroism, one on a smite, and then use Cure Wounds or Shield of Faith as a backup if I get in a sticky situation.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Did this character have command?
No, I'm not seeing any like control spells out of this character either, which I'm interested in why. Oh yeah, has a cantrip Thaumaturgy. Totally gonna be using that.
Yeah, well, I think that comes as part of
I know.
Tiefling, though.
I know, I was being
But-
sarcastic.
Yeah. It definitely, it's definitely there just to check the box, all bureaucratic style. But I think taking out Protection from Good and Evil and putting in Command would make much more sense. So, perfect example: you walk into a room and there's a barbarian across that room. You know, especially having that 19 charisma, like that enormously high charisma, the command spell is what you're going to want. It's going to be able to turn that person into a non-threat, even temporarily. So if you don't like the engagement that you're in, you can get the hell out. I really think that was a really poor choice for as far as the character creation was concerned.
All right, so let's go over quick let's go off 1 or 2 positives, 1 or 2 negatives about the character. Number 1, advantage of taking this character: you have a high AC character. You also have 20 points of lay on hands to get rid of status effects, or just 20 points of healing for 1 action. That's awesome. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's huge. Also, keep in mind that with Lay on Hands, you can choose how many hit points that you're going to use at any given moment. So, he can say that till the last moment of the game, find somebody who's the lowest amount of health, or he can just heal some diseases or some effects as it goes on. I really don't see a lot of curing diseases happening in this. I mean, I could be wrong, but I really don't see that happening in the arena.
Well, we'll see as we look at the other characters what they do have.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And then we can refer back to like the people that we've already seen. Also, another interesting choice: giving them a 2-handed longsword instead of giving a shield, I think, was a strategic decision on the creator's point of avoiding a 18 or a 17 AC.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting choice. I definitely, as if I was creating the character, I would not make that choice. I think that would be very unusual. Also, keep in mind that there is no rule against giving somebody else an item that you're carrying in this scenario. So, if, say, a dwarf cleric happens to have a shield, there's nothing saying that that dwarf cannot give the shield to the tiefling paladin to make his armor class that much higher.
Very true. Ooh, looking for loopholes already.
It's me we're talking about here.
Fair enough. You ready to move on to the next character?
Yeah, I think we covered just about everything I'd like to. The only other thing that I would mention is the charisma-based skills that basically kind of don't serve very much justice. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty.
I mean, the athletics score could come into a grapple situation. But other than that, I don't think you're really going to be using too much skill other than perception for looking for traps.
Yeah. Also, keep in mind, athletics is also used in shoving somebody else, so that's also kind of important. Yeah, let's move on to the next.
Alright, so next is the second character, Gregor, the Dwarven Paladin. So let's see how he differs from our first Paladin. So first off the bat, AC 14, so he dropped in AC, and a respectable charisma score of a 16 instead of a 19.
Yeah, where he lacks, he makes up in Constitution, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, with a 41 HP, that puts him 5 points higher than the Tiefling Paladin. Also,
Interesting.
resistance to poison instead of fire.
Yeah, as we go through the character list, we'll have to see. I find resistance to fire much more beneficial than resistance against poison more often than not. But we'll see what comes.
Alright, so same thing we did with last guy. What oath did he take? First off, fighting style. The last guy took armor. This guy took 2-weapon fighting. So they can re-roll 1s and 2s on melee weapons with a 2-handed weapon. So definitely going to be hitting a little bit harder with this character. Oath is Oath of Vengeance. So we're talking about this character can do Hunter's Mark.
See, now I like this guy.
Yeah, this one is, to me, looking a lot better, especially with the Abjure enemy. You're going to be calling out one person and you know, going after that one guy.
Yes, this is much more threatening, in my opinion, than the previous character.
This guy has, to me, this is the better Paladin.
Yeah, I agree. I think also it's let's not forget that with that couple damage, and yes, he's taking a little bit of hit to armor class here, but let's not forget there are still spells to make up some of that difference, right? And a simple cast of either him or somebody else using Shield of Faith on him brings him up an additional 2.
Agreed. Alright, so for spells, speaking of which, we have... So, he still has Bless and Cure Wounds, just like the last Paladin, but he gets Bane, Hunter, and Hunter's Mark, along with Shield of Faith. So we have a debuff on this Paladin. That being said, with a 13, it's a little less likely to succeed. But I like the Hunter's Mark. I'm saying this Paladin chooses the biggest threat on the opponent's team and takes them out.
Yeah, well, also keep in mind that Bane can target up to 3 creatures. So, in a situation where you may need to punch a hole in the enemy line, this may be the guy that you're looking for.
So, this guy has in my opinion, far more tactical advantage than the last Paladin. The last Paladin I would put in as a meat wall. This one I would put in more as a striker position.
Yeah, this would be the kind of guy that I would put sort of at the front line. Also, Vow of Enmity is really useful in this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, advantage against a target, hands down, you're going to take him out.
And also that frees up the ability, because really, with a melee character, typically, especially in 5e, you can only really focus on one target, especially at level 4, right? Because let's not keep in mind that most of the classes are not going to have an additional attack.
Yes, definitely. Other than possibly the monk.
Which also frees up that potion of slipperiness for somebody else that may need it. Because if you're already getting advantage, there's no reason to really take the potion of slipperiness when you have the ability to heal yourself anyway.
Agreed. All right, so that brings up another point. If you could choose an item out of the 4 or 5 items that we have, which one? Now let's take Aura of Power directly off the list because we'd always choose Aura of Power. Out of the other items, what would you give this character?
Well, out of the items available, keeping in mind he's a dwarf, I really don't see him utilizing that movement speed, and I really don't care if he utilizes that movement speed. I would save that for the rest of the party moving around me, and then choosing my definitive charge into combat and fighting it out at that point. I really don't see this character having an effective retreat, even with additional potions and abilities. So this is sort of the glass cannon type character. He decides when he's going for... This is the Brunner Battlehammer. Like, this is when he's going... Or, like, the Fibbledorf Print. Like, he's going forward, and he's decided that this is the time for combat, and everybody's either following up or falling behind.
You know, that's where I actually disagree with you. I think so you're saying Potion of Heroism, probably?
I'm saying that so I'm kind of on the fence about it, because I think the Potion of Heroism does give him a lot more temporary hit points, a lot more ability to sort of wall some of that damage on the initial rush while the rest of the party follows in behind him on the turn order. I also see the Potion of Slipperiness being very effective in that same regard. So either one of those, to me, is equally as effective or equally as useful.
Huh. All right, yeah, I would say Potion of Speed just to get him in position, because he's going to be, on the first round, he's possibly going to be 15 feet behind the rest of the party.
Yeah, that's true. And I very much agree with you. I just, for this type of character, if I was to play him, I would sort of make my strengths strong with this character instead of trying to make up for my weaknesses in that regard.
All right. So this one was a lot faster because we already looked at a paladin right before this one. But
yeah, absolutely.
Positives on this guy, I would honestly say he's gonna be doing a lot more damage. He's gonna be able to single target elimination would probably be one of his biggest strengths. And for weaknesses, lower AC, and the decreased movement speed is gonna probably definitely get in this guy's way.
Yeah, at some point that decreased movement speed is gonna catch up to you, or not catch up to you, wherever the joke lies in there is up to you. But I think it's important to keep in mind that with the Tiefling Paladin we were looking at previously, you're more of a boat for the rest of the party. So you're more reliant on the rest of the party to see and to assist you. But this Paladin is a more standalone warrior.
Yeah, and depending on team composition, I would honestly probably prefer this Paladin over the other one.
What was the spells in the spell list? I'm kind of looking through the Twitch chat right now to look at it, because loading up two things kind of doesn't make
so the
sense.
spells in the spell list are Bane, Bless, Cure Wounds, Hunter's Mark, Shield of Faith. Hey, Lila, stop!
Right. So yeah, he's not really running around at 14. He's running around at 16. Because if he's not casting that bonus spell right after his first initial movement, that's going to last the rest of the game.
Okay, alright, I can see that.
But also keep in mind that also applies to the other Paladin as well. So he's 16, but he also has access to Shield of Faith, unless he decides to use it on someone else. So he's really rocking around at 18.
Yeah, true, but it's a hard decision because the other Paladin had. So you have to evaluate. Do you want to use Heroism on the other Paladin and boost your HP, or do you want to use Shield of Faith on the other paladin and boost your AC? Honestly, I don't know which one I would prefer, because both have very good pluses and negatives.
You mean on the Tiefling?
On the Tiefling, yeah, because he has Heroism.
Yeah, on the Tiefling, I would absolutely take the Potion of Slipperiness if I found it. If I found it on the battlefield, I would take that over the others. And because, again, I go back to the idea of making my strengths strong. Because I have to rely on the rest of the party whether I like it or not. So it makes more sense to me to take the Potion of Slipperiness and start walling off some of that damage and letting the rest of the party get themselves into position and start picking things off. The team composition obviously makes a lot more sense. With the team composition for the Tiefling, you're going to want a lot more positional and ranged combat effective people. With this particular fighter, you're going to want a more mixed bag.
Yeah, also with the Tiefling, with the Potion of Heroism, if the Tiefling picks it up, toss it to somebody else. Remember, you only can get temporary HP from one source, and it's up to the highest of those two. And you already have Heroism as a spell, which is a recurring amount of a temporary HP.
That's true. But keep in mind, out of the list, right, because we've seen both Paladins now, without a doubt, with the Tiefling Paladin has the potential of having the highest difficulty of harming in the current set right now.
Agreed. All right, let's move. We have to get moving on to the next one because we got a couple, like 12 more to cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, the next one I looked at a little bit before, and he is a powerhouse. We're looking at Grundle, the half-orc barbarian. Now, right off the bat, first thing I always look at, and I said this before, is the stat line, which Strength 17 does not surprise me. But what surprised me with him is I saw that resistance list of every single type of damage and went, he's a totem barbarian.
Yeah, totem of the bear, baby.
And me personally would call this first pick or ban. Honestly, it would have to be.
With the current structure, I'd absolutely ban this character. I wouldn't even let it go to a question. At some point in one of my bans, I'm going to ban this Totem Barbarian.
I do believe they did, but it was the third ban picked was this Barbarian. First went to a Wizard, and the second went to the Monk. Third was this Barbarian. But that being said, I would have picked it first or second. Like, if I was Team A and I had first pick, I had first ban, and Team B had first pick, I would use my first ban to ban this character. I would guarantee they're not getting it.
Yeah, I mean, a totem barbarian, and with so many spells to be able to increase, maybe not so many spells, but with things on the battlefield like the Potion of Slipperiness, with things on the battlefield like magic to increase armor class, like we were just seeing out of those paladins. Probably one of the hardest things that you could potentially deal with as far as a frontline melee duo would be one of those paladins and this barbarian. Because if you let this barbarian roll out and he gets his rage on, you are going to have one hell of a problem to deal with.
Oh, yeah, especially, well, he starts off with 14 AC, which with the attack rolls that I'm seeing on these characters being an average of +7, +4, +5, +7, you're looking at a 7 or more to hit. Now, if they hit him with a Shield of Faith, you're looking at a 9 or higher to hit him. And then if you hit him, you're dealing half damage unless you're dealing Psychic.
Yeah, and there's not really too many wizard spells that are going to allow them to deal psychic damage. I believe there's one or two bard spells that'll deal psychic damage, but I mean, at that point, the hit point difference is just between the psychic damage spells and the other damage spells, you're just not going to be dealing as much damage as you want to. So you're really looking at dealing resistance, really dealing with resistance with this character. Also, keep in mind that he has a very high athletics because of his strength, which means he's probably going to win grapples. He's probably going to win shoves. So he's going to be able to shove people across the battlefield as he wishes, or shove people off or into things. So he's going to be able to reposition people if he chooses to do that with his action.
Yeah, also, looking at his inventory, he has a great axe and a javelin. So he does have some minor range capabilities. Now, in a tough situation, in the first 2 rounds, if you can't reach your target, I would definitely throw that javelin.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. I think the javelin's very useful. I wouldn't put a ton of stock in it, to be completely honest. I think as long as it's pre-rage and you throw that javelin, then you're probably... As you get into position, it's kind of situational, to be honest. It's useful, but it's very situational.
Also, being a half-orc, when he crits, not if, when he crits, he rolls an additional dice. And wielding a great axe, I believe, let me see here, yeah, confirmed, that is a 2d12 plus 3, plus an additional d12, so 3d12 plus 3 on a single attack.
Oh, and the additional 2 from rage, don't forget.
Yeah, so we're talking about, oh my god, we're talking about almost close to 40 damage, which, from what we've seen of these characters, that will take out almost any one of these characters in a single shot if you max out your damage.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Which is exactly why I think the Paladin should have had the command spell. This is a perfect example why. You know, you want him, you want to... But also keep in mind that this particular Barbarian has a Wisdom bonus, which I found very interesting. When you could slide some of those points over for a little extra Constitution, or maybe a little extra Dexterity. You're probably not going to pump up the Strength too much, but I was interested to see that. So he's going to only have that +1 for that Wisdom save against that command spell, and one of the only things that you can really stop a Barbarian with mid-rage is some of the magic that you can mind alter them with.
Yep. Alright, so last ability that he has that we have not touched on is obviously Reckless Attack and Relentless Endurance. So Relentless Endurance is when he hits 0 HP, he does not die. He gets dropped down to 1 once per long rest. And since those abilities reset, you know, each match, that's going to happen every match.
Yeah, if you can get him down that low before he caves your skull in with that great axe. Yet another reason why this should be a ban. Because not only you're dealing with resistance, but even when you manage to take this character out, you may not. He may stand there at 1 hit point grinning at you through his helmet. Like, that's not where you want to be.
And as you said, if you have one of those 2 paladins on your team, they'll just slap him on the back, and now you're dealing with a effective HP of 40, because remember, he only has really 20, but he's taking half damage from everything.
Yeah, exactly. And this is also keeping in mind that we haven't even touched on the items that he could pick up on the battlefield.
Yeah, 10 temporary HP, hands down, in my opinion, would be the best item for this character. You hand him that, oh, look it. Once again, take his HP of 35, double it. You're looking at 70 HP as long as he's in a rage.
Yeah, and so you're talking about a character that has the potential to one-shot every other character in the current meta. In the current set. Yeah, in the current meta, sorry. Along with the fact that this character, when coupled with anything that can heal, and let's not forget that there are a lot of classes in the meta that can heal. He can just walk around with them, and they can walk around like a mobile battle force, like a battle tank just marching through people. That is 100% ban on my opinion.
All right. Agreed. So, disadvantages about this character, I'm seeing very few. His AC's great. His intelligence score is low, but I'm not going to see when that's going to come into effect here. I guess if you can get him somehow out of rage, he'll die really quickly, but good luck doing that from what we can see right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to fail, like, the Calm Emotion spell or a Command spell, which are probably going to be some of your... If they have them, right? So we haven't gotten to the Clerics, we haven't gotten to the Druid. So potentially those are characters that could stop this character, but you're also looking at a multi-layered, multi-turn stopping this character. Right, when one well-placed fireball may end most other characters, or this character, perfect example, could kill you in one turn very easily. So you're going to have, at any point, a multi-tiered plan of attack to take this character out, which in my mind is way too much to deal with when you're dealing with 4 other characters on the opposing team.
Yeah, I'm also...
Sorry, 3 other.
I am hoping to see a Crown of Madness on one of those 2 bards. Because I would target this guy with it hands down every time.
Oh, absolutely.
Alright, let's go on from the Barbarian, which... Oh, good. My second favorite class in the game. The Druid. Sashir.
I'm sensing... Sorry.
Actually, alright. So, full disclosure, I do not hate Druids. It sounds like I do, and... Our druid in the party will swear up and down that I totally hate their character. I do not hate druids. They are just, as a GM, a pain to deal with. As a player, though, I think it would be more manageable to deal with them.
Yeah, I see during the pick and ban this character already being possibly a character that's overlooked, which shouldn't happen.
Yeah, no, they didn't touch her. They didn't pick her, they didn't ban her. They kept away from the druid, which I found extremely interesting. But I've already brought up to you on my stream about my issues with druids and wild shape. But as we go, we'll get into that. I'm not seeing a list of forms either on this here, so that's another thing we'd have to wonder about, is what forms this druid gets.
I think that would probably be handled by the same person that does all the status effects. Probably what would happen is he would say he's shifting into a form, and the person that does the status effects would apply the status effect to the character while the game is going.
Okay, so let's look at the stats. Pretty standard spread for a druid, with wisdom being the highest stat, charisma being the lowest. I'm happy seeing the constitution a little higher than the strength or dexterity. Than the strength, putting him at a 15, so a decent health score of 25. That 25. I can see that barbarian just taking this character out especially with an AC of 13.
I disagree, because let's not forget, this character is going to have wild shapes, so there's a lot of hit points you have to chew through.
Agreed. I'm being hopeful here. So, Druid Circle, Circle of the Land. But I actually have never played Circle of the Land. So land is mountain. So once per long rest during a short rest. Ignored. Done. You're not going to be taking a short rest during combat.
No, you're not. There's going to be no option for that. So.
Wild Shape Improvement. When using your Wild Shape feature, you can transform into a beast that's half CR or lower. So there'll be a better shifter than other druids of the same type. Maybe not as much as a Moon Druid, but, there's that.
Yeah, this gives options like, I believe, the Wolf, which is a great option for this. I'd have to look at the list of available forms.
Yeah, that's another thing we need to see, is what forms do they have available for these druids.
I'll bring it up right now.
I don't think they have any. It's not in the rules. Like, what rules are they going to allow? Maybe creatures? No, nothing. There's nothing.
Well, I'm assuming that it would be beast shapes that are appropriate to that are standard appropriate to the character. So what I'm looking at right now is most of your half CR characters you're looking at ape, black bear, crocodile.
You already read off what my answer would be then in this type of situation. If you're looking for a tank, you're looking at the black bear.
Yeah, I'd be forced to agree with that one too.
Damage,
I think
wolf.
But let's keep in mind my favorite little trick when it comes to being a druid is taking the form of the boar.
Yeah, that charge.
Well, it's not just that. A boar in 5e, I believe. Let me bring. Yeah, a boar in 5e has Relentless. So it recharges after a short and long rest, but if the boar takes 7 damage or less, that would reduce it to 0 hit points. It's reduced to 1 hit point instead.
So it has the same thing the barbarian has. Ouch.
Correct. The only thing is that it happens on that 7 damage or less. So 7 damage or less. But what's really cool about that is it can sort of replace the idea of that orc ability.
Yeah. Alright, so let's look at the druid spell list. Druidcraft, not going to be useful in this situation. Guidance, not going to be useful in this situation. Poison Spray as a cantrip, decent cantrip, 1d12 poison damage. So there's our poison damage. There's some of it right there for the Barbarian and the Dwarf Paladin.
Oh, I would use that all day. Because there are
sorry.
no...
First level spells, we have Fairy Fire, Healing Word. So we got a good heal right there. Ice Knife.
Distance heal, which is important.
Yes. Ice Knife and Thunder Wave. So we have a little bit of board control here with Thunder Wave and Ice Knife. Ice Knife can be a very good deterrent for other players standing near each other.
Yeah, Ice Knife is probably one of my favorite spells currently. Zephyr Strike being a very close, Ice Knife being a very close second to Zephyr Strike. But Ice Knife is awesome if you have that situation of two characters that like to hang out with each other, or if you catch the cleric healing somebody because they have to get within touch range in order to make that happen, unless they're using Healing Word.
Alright, so level 2 spells, we have Bark Skin, Find Traps, and Flame Blade.
Alexa, turn my
I think those are all solid choices.
Yeah, Find
solid
Traps,
choices that I...
like, exactly for the fifth round, if you get it.
Turned off.
Yeah, but keep in mind that I really do think that they're going to adjust that rule set. So I think that this druid is going to be a little bit more useful in that regard in the future. Because I don't see that happening at the same level in the future. I think that...
Because you're not eating your crackers, I made you.
That's enough. Alright, so Barkskin, I believe, raises AC, and Flame Blade is good out of form damage with 3d6 with a +5 to hit. And a duration of 10 minutes. So we're seeing some good, solid spells out of this druid, even though most of the time you're probably going to be in form.
Well, in all honesty, in an arena setting, I don't see the druid. I don't see the druid keeping its form the whole time. Typically, if this isn't banned, I definitely see the wild shapes being used up by the end of the fight, because it's going to have to be a priority. That's why I would choose the boar form, because I get 2 chances at keeping... I get an additional chance at keeping my wild shape.
Agreed. Alright, so pros and cons for this character now that we've seen majority of their stuff. I'm going to say about 90%, and I touched on all of it. So I'm enjoying the extra HP from the Wild Shape. You have some control abilities like Ice Knife and Thunder Wave, which I love Thunder Wave. I can see the Druid rolling into the center of combat in form, getting the shit kicked out of it to pop out of form, and then Thunder Waving the enemies away from him.
Yeah, and given hazards and traps, that could definitely be a worthwhile tactic. I could also see this character filling in for your frontline melee character if they've happened to gone down off a lucky crit or a well-aimed spell. I see this character doing what a druid should be doing, which is being versatile on the field, not necessarily great at anything, but good at everything.
Agreed. I would, at this point, seeing that we've only seen 4 characters, I can't confirm 100%, but I would say this would be my second pick. Because of versatility alone, it can take the spot of either an attacker, a healer, or a tank. And I love somebody who can do all 3.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, I'd agree with you. I don't know if I would place it in the same spot on my pick list, but I definitely would be taking it as a priority.
All right, we gotta move along. We're gonna look at Ronin. I assume this is a joke on what a Ronin is, but Ronin, the human fighter.
Yeah, watch it be a bow fighter.
I swear to God. Alright, so nothing surprising out of the... I mean, well, actually, the Wisdom being the low stat on that is a little bit surprising. I thought Charisma would have been his low stat, but we haven't looked at his class features yet, so we don't know what type of fighter he is. A solid 16 in Strength and a 14 in Dex means he's not going to be getting hit with any, AoEs instantaneously like that Barbarian. Or that Druid. Not Druid, oh my god, Paladin.
Yeah, I think overall, just looking at the base stats, the armor 16, the 36 hit points, and very, very generous stats spread out over a good area. I like the way this is going already.
So one thing I did notice in the live stream yesterday that I was a little saddened about, they did not action surge during their during the combat rounds that they did have, and that fighter could have been right in somebody's face on like turn 2 or 3 instead of turn 4 or 5.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. I think that in some ways that was good, in some ways that was bad. If this fighter got caught out of position, that could have been very devastating for them.
So, bonus, good things and features of this fighter. It's a great weapon fighter, can reroll 1s and 2s with melee damage, so you're going to be hitting relatively hard almost every time. With a strength of 5, that's plus 5 to your damage. And with a great sword, I believe, as his weapon, you're be rolling with 2d6 plus 3 for damage. Plus 3. Plus 3.
Yeah, from the strength.
Oh yeah, plus 5 because because of the proficiency. Duh.
Yep. So you're looking at a minimum of 5 damage and a maximum of 15, right?
Yep.
I think that's solid damage. Keep in mind that this character's rolling with a 16 armor class with a great sword. That's stellar, right? Also keeping in mind a paladin could cast Shield of Faith on him, making it so that way he's rolling around at an 18 with a great sword, really rivaling some of the higher level characters that are in the meta right now. I think also the number of hit points is really surprising. This character is a real contender in physical combat.
Agreed. With the high AC and the high HP, you're going to be seeing him going straight in there and being able to take some people out, especially with the action surge and the ability to heal with Second Wind. Also, with a 30 speed, he's faster than the Dwarven Paladin, which we thought would be a good close combat fighter too.
Yeah, I think I think the one thing that I'm looking at from these base stats that I really don't like is that low wisdom score. There is a lot of magic out there that can affect that, and even the barbarians had a higher wisdom score than that, which, you know, that can be a real problem considering I'm thinking of spells like, most mind affecting spells are going to be affecting your wisdom or intelligence score.
Yeah, agreed. Honestly, I see him like a striker, just like the paladin. I see him going in, targeting one person, eliminating somebody from the combat in probably 1 to 2 rounds max. Especially if he's going after a caster of some sort.
Yeah, I agree. I think if this character got a hold of the potion with movement speed, this character would very much close the gap, very much be a mage slayer. There is really not much the mage is going to be able to do once this character hits base contact with him.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's and if he gets the potion before the druid can shift into form, I don't see the druid living from it either. I think that the druid would be heavily hurt, maybe survive from it and pick a wild shape form, and the fighter may stick around for it, may not. It's the hit points of the character that count toward the victory, not the wild shape.
Agreed. Also, another big thing you gotta be looking at. Unfortunately, he is not going to go toe to toe that barbarian. The barbarian's gonna be his weakness at this point in time, because he doesn't have anything that can damage that guy. Once that barbarian hits rage, and he's probably gonna hit rage. I'm not gonna say turn 1. I'm gonna say turn 2. The barbarian would go into rage, because if he goes turn 1, he doesn't attack anybody, he loses his rage.
Yeah, unless somebody does something enormously stupid. I don't see that happening. Yeah, I don't. If I was playing this fighter, I would not stick around in front of that barbarian.
All right. So, the fighter is a total advantages: really high HP, AC, good damage potential. We're looking at, on one turn, maximum 4d6 plus 6, 2 separate attacks using action surge. But, once again, unfortunately, not as good as that barbarian.
Right, yeah. The barbarian is definitely... The resistances that totem barbarian is going to have are going to be just stellar. However, one thing I wanted to point out with this character is that he has the most consistent damage. On the 1d12, even with that strength bonus, this character, on average, is going to, at a minimum roll, is going to be doing more damage.
Agreed. All right, moving on. We are now looking at the elf monk Davos.
I already hate it, but I hate elves in general.
Yeah, but I like monks. Alright, so nothing surprising on the spread. High dexterity, strength, low charisma is okay. I would have switched that over for possibly intelligence, though. Some things do end up hitting charisma. But the 15 wisdom is a good choice, because mind-affecting abilities.
Yeah, I think Davos has a lot of good potential. I'm really happy again about having the 16 armor class. A lot of times monks kind of roll in a little bit low to make up for it in damage. So I'm glad to see that he has a 16 armor class. The one thing that does suck, and this sucks with a lot of monks, is the fact that the hit points are going to be lower.
Yeah, 24 compared to the fighter's 36.
Yeah, and that's going to be a problem. And I really don't think the movement speed is going to make up for that. But this guy is a very strong contender if he gets that potion of slipperiness.
Oh, agreed. I mean, if he gets a potion of slipperiness, there's no stopping him from gaining position. Especially if what we talked about that double movement on the first turn and then taking the dash action is true. You have a total movement of 160 on the first turn.
Yeah, exactly. And so this person could be like your first turn sniper rifle if you decide to play him that way. All the way across the battlefield and entering into a combat and flurrying down a potential threat that you're worried about and trying to make it out of that combat. It's an available option. I'm not going to say it's a good option, but it's an available option.
So his monk tradition is Way of the Open Palm, which gives him open hand techniques. When you hit one of your flurry of blow attacks, you can impose one of the following effects: knock them prone, get them pushed away, or they can't take a reaction until the end of your next turn. Now, the one I would use on this is the knocked prone or push them away. With that 160 movement speed on first turn, I would bolt behind one of the enemy team and shove one of their casters directly into my team.
Yeah, that has good potential, especially if that caster is using some sort of cover. That's going to be really useful in shoving that caster into the line of sight of your rangers, even the barbarian with a javelin. He's not going to want to be in that scenario because he's probably going to have maybe a dozen or so hit points. So if he gets caught out of position, that's pretty much it for our squishy cloth boy. So yeah, I like that a lot. I see this character being a high risk, high reward character.
Agreed. Also, he has Shocking Grasp. I don't see. I think it's from the Open Palm, but I'm not sure on that actually. His weaponry is a dagger, a dart, and a short bow. So he has some range potential too.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Shocking Grasp, because Shocking Grasp, dependent on how the DM allows it, because this can also shock through metal. Depending on situation, who's to say that you can't lay some sort of trap on the battlefield? Laying down some sort of metal chain and, having the monk stand on the other side of it and shocking the chain. It's a really deceptively useful spell if you know how to use it properly.
Yeah, I would want to see like some sort of reward system in the final scoring of how a match goes for a good role play, like grabbing a chain off someone or using some sort of chain-like weapon to could do the Shocking Grasp across. Like that is something that you don't normally see in a D&D character, and I think that should be rewarded, in my opinion, as a GM.
I agree. I'm glad you brought this up because I wanted to touch on this a little bit. I think that just having a straight arena match makes it very linear. I think that there should be not like a pick and ban, but a DM or like a random roll of conditions that allow for additional victory points.
I agree. I think there should be one victory point for every character eliminated, one victory point for, exceptional roleplay, and then maybe have some, destroy these items hidden amongst the arena to gain additional victory points. I hate to use other games as an example, but Malifaux or Harry Potter the Miniatures game style objectives in the arena.
Yeah, although I don't have experience playing those games, I agree with what you've said. Yeah, absolutely. Also, Shocking Grasp, you get advantage if the target is wearing any sort of metal armor. As you recall, a lot of these characters are wearing metal armor.
Oh yeah, almost all the high AC ones are. Plus, with an initiative of +4, this character is going to go first, most likely, because every other character has either had a negative or a maximum of +2 on their initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless you're rolling like Will Wheaton, you are probably going to be going.
Alright, so I'll let you handle 2 goods and 2 bads about this character for the summary.
Okay. So 2 goods. This character is going to be one of the fastest on the battlefield, going to be able to get into a position, going to be able to fill in gaps versatile in melee combat and be very good at assisting your frontline fighter, pulling people out of position and putting them where they don't want to be. Another benefit is that he's going to hit a lot. He's going to hit multiple times, not necessarily hard, but he's going to be blowing through things like Sanctuary. He's going to be blowing through, small numbers, especially people that don't have a high armor class. He's going to be able to chew through those targets, chew through those clothies. That's what you want. You don't want those clothies, right? You don't want them. You don't want to deal with that reflex save for half. You don't want that in your life. So you're going to take care of that at the front line. Cons. This character has a very high risk, high reward. He's got lower hit points than the other frontline fighters, so you really have to make sure your positioning is on point. Luckily, you have a little bit extra movement speed to make up for that, but if you make that mistake, you still got a little bit of armor class to help you deal with that. Another con is that there are going to be situations, and you have to remember that this character is going to have to use his open palm to sort of manipulate people, not necessarily damage them outright, because he's not going to be doing as much damage as the other characters, because he's just gonna not. He's going to be able to hit, and he's going to be able to hit consistently, but the damage threshold is going to be lower.
Yeah, no weapon kind of ends up doing that to you. With only having the fisticuffs. He has a dagger, but that's less damage than his fists.
He has that dagger in his list, and I'm honestly kind of curious why they gave him that dagger. I know it's a throwing weapon, so that helps out a lot, but honestly, I'd attach that dagger to a chain and shocking grasp through the damn thing, but that's just...
Alright, so we actually missed a character, probably because, what class it was. But this character was actually banned in the picks and bans as the fourth ban, and I don't see why. But it is Reyna, the Human Ranger.
Yeah, Kurt and I, we both agree that Rangers are probably one of the worst classes in Dungeons & Dragons right now, as far as, just general play is concerned. But
they are fun to play. I'm not discouraging the fact that you can play a Ranger. You can play a Ranger. But the issue with Ranger is every other class can do what Ranger does, but better. Now, that being said, we will look at this character through unbiased eyes. I'm not going to poo-poo it just because it is a Ranger.
Oh no, absolutely. I'm just saying, from an outline standpoint, so people know, the backdrop of it.
Yeah. All right. So 28 HP, middle range for the HP from what we've seen. 15 AC, so not the worst that we've seen, but not the best. 19 and 9 on the intelligence. I can see why. With the 6, I would have gone with the 18 or 19 on the dexterity.
Yeah, it would have given that extra armor class. It also would have added an additional point to all of the weapons that, well, not all of the weapons, but it would definitely add probably the reason that this character was banned was because they really didn't want to deal with the longbow in the current meta.
Yeah, with the 150-foot range, you do not have to get anywhere near the opponent. Now, disadvantages straight off about the Ranger, and it's not just being a Ranger, but in this situation, favored enemy, they chose Beast. They should have chosen Humanoid and chosen one of the races. But that is I want to know why they did that. I don't know. Explorer Grasslands, useless in this situation.
A common, a little... I think in D&D Adventurers League, they don't allow you to pick Humanoid when you choose Ranger. I'd have to double check on that, but I think that's pretty consistent.
Okay.
I would definitely double check on that, and so the people listening, do not quote me, please.
Yeah. So we have fighting style of archery with a +2 bonus to their ranged attacks, which great choice. And ranger archetype is actually one of the few ranger archetypes I enjoy, which is hunter, which gives them Colossus Slayer. Colossus Slayer, once per turn, when you hit a creature that's already been damaged, they take an extra D8 damage.
Yeah.
Which is actually decent. Spells, they only have 3. Longstrider, completely useless in this situation. Hunter's Mark, which is good. And Hail of Thorns. You're going to be using Hunter's Mark. I mean, Hail of Thorns is good, but not great. Hunter's Mark is consistent damage.
Yeah, I see Hail of Thorns being very situational, but Hunter's Mark is going to be a consistent spell for this.
But other than that, this character has nothing else, which is disappointing, but okay. I would have liked to see, like I said, more on its attacks, but with a +7 to hit, that's pretty standard with all the melee. The melee and the 150 range is really the advantage of this character, in my opinion.
Well, so I'm gonna say right out why I think they banned it, and I don't necessarily disagree. The reason that they probably banned it was because it's 150 feet if it's not rolling with disadvantage. If this character is 600 feet away, and he's got probably the longest distance weapon that Dungeons & Dragons meta has.
That's the entire board.
It's the entire field, 1. 2, the only person that's going to be shooting back at him is probably him. And the other person shooting back at him is going to be rolling at disadvantage as well. So he could take those pot shots from a distance, let the rest of the party get forward, and position himself while he's taking shots the entire time. Yeah. Rolling at disadvantage, yes, is a disadvantage, but it doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to not hit. And especially at a +7, you still have a very good opportunity to hit that person at 600 feet.
Agreed. With picks and bans, there can't be 2 rangers, so you know you're going to be the only one who has that range. I mean, I think the monk we said had a short bow, but he's still going to be outranged by you. Also, without cover rules, you can hit almost everybody as long as you can see them.
Yeah, and let's not forget Hunter's Mark.
Exactly. So I'm gonna say this, and I might have a little bit of regurgitation in my throat as I say this. This ranger is a good choice.
Yeah, I agree. I've got a little acid reflux myself, but yeah, I think this is a good option, especially in the meta that we're looking at. Considering that the Hunter's Mark is a bonus action, you're still going to get your move. You're still going to get additional damage on top of the Colossus effect, right? The Colossus Slayer effect.
So you're looking at 2d8 +3 plus an additional d6 from Hunter's Mark if the Hunter's Mark's on them. Additionally, if your Hunter's Mark target dies, as a free action, you can switch it.
Mm-hmm. Let's also keep in mind that when we start this combat, this character can look and shoot somebody on the other side of the field, given that there aren't any low light conditions in the way to obscure that field of vision. You're talking about a 600-foot shot. Yes, at disadvantage, but if this person hits, chances are they're going to kill your cloth character. They might kill the monks. They might kill most of the characters in the current meta on the first turn. Yeah,
as long as they move into out, because if you look at the board, they didn't really have a really good view of the actual map itself. It's in a cross-like shape with a square of walls in the center, with the sides on the left and right open, and then 2 entryways on the bottom and top. If any character enters that center zone, that ranger has line of sight.
Yeah, and it's just going to be every turn volley from that point on.
Alright, so let's move on from the ranger. We're going to go a little bit faster pace here, only because we're almost out of time before we actually have to start our D&D session.
Yeah. Abs.
You know, we thought, hey, 2 hours can give us plenty of time to go over everything. Oh, we were wrong.
Yeah. I was like, mistake.
All right, so next up is Peter Petir, the Rogue, half-elf.
Yeah, I mean, rogues are rogues, man.
Agreed. So the main point, first off, we're looking at 4 different weapons on this character. So he is the first character with 4 weapons, 31 HP. For a possible melee combatant, that's decent, especially with an AC of 15. Nothing strange on their stats, but look at that. He has the +4 to dex, so he's better with range than the ranger.
Yeah, typically, yeah, he's going to be better with range than the ranger.
Except he only has a 320-foot range at disadvantage.
Yeah, I mean, so he's not going to be hitting probably on the first turn. But, you know, let's keep in mind that this character does have a high hit point. So you really can choose whether you're going to fight at a distance or you're going to fight in close combat with it.
I found his weakness, the rogue's weakness. Their archetype they gave it was assassin, which in an actual game is not bad. In this situation, it will not work at all. You might as well just toss it right out the window. Because Assassinate says you have advantage on attack rolls against a creature that hasn't gone this combat. So the minute someone takes their turn, your rogue has lost that advantage.
Yeah, that's pretty tough. And you can't really pot shot at the distances that you're talking about, even with the move, and even with,
with the wall.
Yeah, that
there,
ability is
yeah.
pretty useful. I in the sake of time, I'd say that this character, his base stats alone are very useful, which is probably why they gave him more hit points, because they realized that ability is going to be not useful.
I will also say the damage from him is less than the Ranger at max range, because the Ranger will have Colossus Slayer, and he will not have Sneak Attack. So the Ranger is better at range than this Rogue. This Rogue, I do not see myself taking. Honestly, straight up, there's better choices.
Yeah, I think you'd be better served picking fighter than picking this rogue, unfortunately. Damage threshold is just not high enough, and there are just much better choices.
Alright, so we're going to speed through him. Unfortunately, I hate to do that, but he just doesn't stand out to me. I'm sorry, he just does not. From the other characters we saw, others do range better, others do close combat better, and the monk does better in both.
Yeah, I definitely see the monk as a higher threat than this character. No question in my mind. As a matter of fact, I would say that every other character is more threatening than this character, without a doubt.
All right, so now we're getting into the casters. We are on the only wizard in the group. Nothing surprising on his stats. I'm surprised actually a little bit that he doesn't have a negative. He does have an 18 intelligence, so good there. 26 HP, so that's good. That's not bad for a wizard, but with a 12 AC, he will go down if he gets hit hard.
Yeah, but I mean, 26 HP, it's not as low as I thought it was going to be completely truthful.
So let's look at his spells, because that's what we're going to find in this wizard. First off, his type, I believe, is Evocation, which, I don't...
Evocation is a solid choice. I'm gonna have to state that one right out there. And the reason I say that is because, if I'm not mistaken, and keep in mind, listeners, that I'm kind of doing this based on my exceptionally hole-filled memory. I believe with Evocation, you can choose not to harm your ally.
Evocation says affected creatures. You may choose up to 1 plus the spell's level. The chosen creatures automatically, they automatically succeed their saving throws against the spell. So, and if they take no damage, if they would normally take half. So yeah, you can basically choose who does not take damage in AOE spells. So does he have Ice Knife?
Right. So like, if he has Ice Knife, Fireball, any of those,
he has Shatter. He doesn't have Ice Knife, but he has Shatter, and Shatter deals 3d8 damage, and you get to choose to ignore your friendly. So that is awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of where I thought this was going. That's a really, really powerful combination. Evocation makes it so that way he has no qualm throwing in really big spells where he would have to think about, is this good or bad? He can just totally circumvent that and just rain on their parade.
All right. So Misty Step, he has a slight teleportation to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, Misty Step is a solid choice. I've chosen it with wizards in the past. It's definitely a useful spell. Very hard to circumvent. If I remember correctly, I believe it happens on a bonus action.
Yep, bonus action, 30-foot teleport. So it's basically the Shitter Kai teleport.
Yeah, but without the resistance. Yeah, solid choice. Especially if he gets himself into a position where he's.
I can see why this guy was first banned on today. Too much damage and so versatile. Rob, I think you dropped.
He's gonna. Hello.
There you are. You're back.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think his low armor class makes him very dependent on his mobility around the battlefield. I could see the Ranger singling this character out. I could see the Monk singling this character out. And he's only going to have one use of that Misty Step.
He could use it 3 times, but he's not going to. He's going to save the other uses for Shatter or possibly Magic Weapon even, or Magic Missile at first level cast. Sorry, second level cast.
Yeah, Magic Missile's guaranteed damage. Shatter, he's not going to have to worry about harming his allies. Unless you make him your number 1 priority, this is a ban. Like this is so much of a problem to deal with.
All right, let's move on to the next one. So, good things about this character: he's going to be damaged. I can see why he was banned.
Yeah, he's going to take those victory points away from you. He is going to. The only plus is that for people opposing him is, if you have, he's going to be easy to hit. So even with that disadvantage from that Ranger, he's still got a really higher than average chance of hitting him. So if he gets caught out of position, if he walks into that central area, that Ranger is going to be able to shoot at him and possibly still take him out.
Hey, Kyle. You can jump right into the chat if you want. We're discussing the RPG esport characters until everyone gets on. So this might go a little bit into our D&D session until we wait for people to get on here. He just logged in.
I'm in no rush.
Oh shit! You were already here. God damn it.
I've been here the whole time.
Well, Jesus, man, you could have goddamn contributed.
I've quite literally been listening to you for the last like 20 to 30 minutes. I've typed a few things in chat. Yeah, you guys seem like you were on a roll. I didn't want to interrupt you.
All right, so the next one is our sorcerer. That's the sorcerer. So they only went with 1 wizard, 1 sorcerer in this format, and I'm okay with that. I don't think you need multiple.
Yeah, I agree. I think having more than one makes it so that way during the pick and ban, uh, you're gonna have to make the choice of one caster or the other typically. You could outright ban both, but obviously we'll get to that. But I think that the wizard is the choice that you should make for the ban. I would much rather deal with this sorcerer than I would that wizard.
Agreed. And I think that's the choice they made yesterday with their stream. All right, so we're looking at a Draconic Bloodline Black Dragon Sorcerer. Draconic Resilience. Your max HP is increased by 4 when you aren't wearing armor. Or your AC is equal to 15. So a 15 AC on a caster, straight up 3 AC higher than the wizard.
Yeah, I'm also really happy about the hit points in this. The hit point is, I believe it's the same as the wizard.
Yes, it is. Also, meta magic, they took Quickened and Empowered spell.
You know that those are some of my 2 favorite meta magic spells, or meta magic abilities. Quicken, absolutely.
Yeah. Quicken is the one I use most common if I play a sorcerer. Or even
Yeah,
think about
Quicken
playing a sorcerer.
spell can be absolutely devastating.
Especially on a sorcerer, you're going to be getting a lot more damage. So cantrips, we're looking all damaging cantrips, which I'm not surprised about in this format. Acid Splash, Chill Touch, Fireball. So you have a type of damage, basically, for any kind of resistance, except that fucking Barbarian, and I will continue to goddamn say that.
Yeah, that barbarian's going to be able to tank the spells of this sorcerer, and also the wizard. But you really don't want to have to deal with it in the current meta. But that being said, what does the spell list look like? That's the real question.
Yeah, level 1, we're looking at Mage Armor, Ray of Sickness, and Witch Bolt. Mage Armor, possibly, but I don't know if I'd use the spell slot on that, because you already have a 15 AC, and I think Mage Armor only brings you up to a 16.
Yeah, I would... that's a tough one. I think that...
No, Mage Armor is going to bring you back to a 15, so Mage Armor is completely useless. Throw that right out the window.
What's their wording on Mage Armor again? Refresh my memory.
13 plus Dexterity, which he has a plus 2 Dexterity, so 15, he already has that.
Yeah, and all of the other characters have sort of like min-maxed armor calculations, so if you go against their original calculation, you're just going to be doing yourself a disservice.
I mean, the only time that'd be useful is if the wizard and the sorcerer were in the same group. I would have the sorcerer Mage Armor the wizard.
Yeah, considering I don't think that wizard has mage armor, does it?
I don't remember seeing it. Ray of
Yeah.
Sickness, poison damage, decent amount. Witch Bolt, it's a concentration and it's consistent damage every round. I like that spell. Also, Misty Step is seeing it here again. But the main point I see for his damage is the Scorching Rays. Quicken spell, Scorching Ray, and then hit him up with another Firebolt. You're going to see someone go down.
Yeah, you're looking at a really big damage threshold out of this character. And also keep in mind that these spells, he's not going to have to worry about... he's not really going to have to worry about people in the area. What do you think about that, Kyle? Kyle's not here anymore.
Whatever.
But also, Witch Bolt is an interesting choice for this character, I think.
It's other than Mage Armor, I'm actually not Mage Armor. I think it's its only concentration spell.
Right, but keep in mind that with Witch Bolt, the spell ends if you use your action to do anything else.
But 2d12 damage.
Right, but also the spell ends if the target is ever outside the spell's range or has total cover from you.
30 feet. Yeah, point made. Well, remember, there is no cover.
Yeah. There is no cover that is part of the natural battlefield. But let's not forget, we haven't, maybe some hazards could block that sort of view. maybe some spells could block that sort of view.
Point made. That is actually a very valid point. All right, we got to move on. All right, we actually are down to the clerics. There's 2 clerics, 2 bards, and a warlock left. So let's go with human cleric.
Alrighty.
Oh, sorry, dwarf cleric. Dwarf cleric.
Right.
Which Darius was actually in the match that I believe today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So first off, I will say that the fact that they made the dwarf the cleric and they made the dwarf the paladin, I really would have liked to seen a dwarf fighter. I'm almost a little disappointed that they only went through the idea of making the dwarves the divine spellcasters. I would have really liked to see a dwarf fighter out of the current meta.
Yeah. All right. So with Channel Divinity, we have Guided Strike. When you roll an attack roll, you may use your Channel Divinity for a +10 bonus after the roll, but before acknowledging results. So you're gonna hit once, and you're gonna make it worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And also coupled with the idea that this character is carrying a maul. Oof.
Also, we're looking at a war priest here, so a war domain priest. So we're looking at make 1 attack as a bonus action. So you can get 2 attacks 3 times.
Yeah, exactly. You're looking at a deceptively high-powered melee combatant here. Also, keep in mind this character has a 17 armor class. That's a lot. That's a lot to deal with in this meta where we've seen a lot of 16s. We haven't really seen a lot go beyond that. And we haven't even got to any spells yet.
Yeah,
this
you want to see the
really
shit kicker? He has spiritual weapon.
Molto bene. Like, you're talking about a spell that just hangs around the battlefield as an additional combative factor. Like, what? It's clutch.
Yeah, and as a war priest, what I'm seeing this character doing is spending the first round or 2 in combat, number 1, hitting with that bonus action, using their own weapon, and then immediately casting spiritual weapon, and then slamming into them for the next 10 rounds with spiritual weapon.
Well, I actually kind of see it a little bit different because of the stubby dwarf legs. I really see the character spending a little too much time catching up. Additionally, this character is probably going to be going lower in the tier order with an initiative of -1.
Yeah, I agree with you. So range of spiritual weapon is 60 feet. Toss that spiritual weapon 60 feet in front of you. Have it go attack for a few rounds as you catch up.
Right, that could be very good if the opposing team is not taking advantage of that additional movement granted by the rules set of the current RPG sports, though. So if you cast that spiritual weapon where you think they're going to be, rather than where they are, you may be better off.
You can also use it as a deterrent if you're trying to keep them away from certain areas.
Yeah, absolutely. You can use it to close off one of the points of entry in one of these situations. Well, not close it off, but you can definitely give them something to think about, a different priority anyway.
Also, let's not forget, Guiding Bolt. 120 feet with 4d6 damage.
Oh, anybody walking into that arena space, they're going to have to deal with that. So those are the 2 spells that this cleric is going to have, probably that are going to do the most damage to gain the distance to get into that melee combat.
And once you're in that melee combat, you have Inflict Wounds, which is 3d10.
Lot of damage potential out of a cleric with a lot of hit points. This is a really good choice if they don't ban it. I see this character doing a lot of damage, but not necessarily chosen as a ban, because let's face it, it was in the game, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Also, look at the heals. You have both Healing Word and Cure Wounds. So if you don't need the extra damage on your team, you have a healer. This character is clutch, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I think this I probably would be looking at this for a ban. I really would, because it's just so much damage potential. So like I'm definitely banning the barbarian. I'm definitely banning the wizard, and this is a very close third.
All right, let's move on to the next cleric then. Alright, so first off thing I just noticed, has a crossbow. Initiative's a little higher. AC, I believe, is higher with a 16. Still has guiding bolt. What domain do they choose, though? Life. So this is the heal cleric. You take this cleric, you know what you're getting. Because with the life domain, you're going to be healing so much HP.
Yeah, this is your battle healer. This is probably going to be the character that isn't going to be necessarily banned. This is probably going to be one of the more consistent characters that you're going to see out of the current meta. This is probably going to be on both sides, because it's not going to be an immediate ban, because the damage potential is not enormously high like the other cleric, but is still not as big a threat to your own victory points. They can gain their victory points based on HP, but it's not a threat to your victory points.
I mean, look at Preserve Life. As an action, you can channel Divinity to heal 20 HP to any number of, up to 20 HP divided between any number of characters within 30 feet of you, up to half their max HP. So you can bring your entire team back up to a decent amount with this. Or you have that barbarian who's playing tank, fucking bring him right back to 20 HP. Sorry, 15, because I think he had a max of 36.
Right, this is going to be able to, that spell itself is going to be able to bring the party back up all Aldwin status. But let's keep in mind that that's how do I put this? That's very situational.
Yeah,
right? You're going to have some characters. Yeah, you're going to have some characters that are a much lower hit point. You're going to have some characters that haven't been touched yet. And there's going to be a systematic order in which you're going to base your attack against the enemy. You're not just going to walk in blindly and assume that you're going to take everybody down in a grand rush. You're going to have a systematic approach at how to defeat every character in the meta. So there is going to be a system. There is going to be an order in which these characters are being defeated, and or an order in which those characters are engaged in combat. So
I just
where
noticed...
I see that ability being the most useful is right at the end of the game.
Agreed. I just noticed our entire D&D party is actually now in this chat.
Well, they should be. We're 2 minutes over.
God damn it. We're almost done, guys. If you guys want to chip
What's
in...
up, Vanilla Face?
Any things you notice or hear us talking about and want to give your advice towards a competitive D&D esports style conversation, please feel more to. So first thing I noticed this character has right now, it has blindness and deafness. That is the first time we've seen a character with this spell, and that can be very useful taking out a melee attacker.
Yeah, so what's the save on that? Is that a
Con save of 14.
Constitution save? So that's not really going to be affecting your that's not really going to be affecting your front line.
But that barbarian, my good sir, that barbarian had a surprisingly mediocre Constitution score.
He did. That's a good point. But I wouldn't leave that to chance. Remember, we've only got so many spells to deal with. Where I do see that being more useful is possibly casting that against our good mage friend.
Agreed. I mean, what I would do is, this is a situation where picks and bans. If you see them somehow get that barbarian, take this cleric with that blindness spell. At least you have some counter to him. Something to slow that motherfucker down. Because that guy is beefy and strong.
Yeah, I mean, I see the totem barbarian as being a pretty consistent ban across the board. So in the current meta, before the changes, for the next one, I really don't see that barbarian hitting the battlefield. If the one team allows that barbarian to be chosen by the other team, they're dumb. That's a very poor decision on their part.
All right, we only have 3 left to go. 2 of them are bards. One's a warlock. So Omri, who was actually the bard who got in on this last session.
Yeah. Which I was surprised that the only halfling character they chose a bard, not a rogue, but a bard.
Yeah. All right, so we have I believe it's a lore bard first off, which not a bad choice. Song of Rest, useless. Bardic Inspiration, 4 uses, so not that bad. Expertise, not really going to be helping in this situation at all. Bonus proficiencies, stealth, you can't hide, so useless. Insight, not going to be useful. Athletics could be useful if you get grappled, but that's about it. But the advantage of the lore bard is the cutting words. By having cutting words, you can have a debuff. So I haven't looked at the whole thing yet, but I'm seeing a debuff bard here.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I think that this bard you're going to see this bard a lot in the current meta. I think you're gonna have to plan around him. You're gonna have to single him out. Use the monk, use your ranger to target this halfling bard and take him out while the frontline fighters are fighting. Because if you don't, that consistent advantage that he's giving with that bard inspiration is gonna tax you.
Yeah, we have blindness, deafness. We also have Dissonant Whispers and Vicious Mockery. Remember, Vicious Mockery, even if it fails, deals the 1d4, and it targets Wisdom. And not too many characters in this had a huge Wisdom.
No, not many at all. I think probably only the clerics did.
Alright, with an AC of 14 and 31 health. That is higher than almost any of the other casters.
Yeah, I found that to be a little weird too. Maybe not weird. I think it's very beneficial. It gives the bard who is going to have to be moving around the battlefield, it gives them a little bit extra hit point in case they get caught out of position. I think that was intentional on the character generator, the person that generated these characters part, and I think that was a pretty good choice. I would have liked to see them probably a little bit lower in hit points than that. I think that's probably a little high. But that being said, you're also talking about a character with the potential of 4 turns giving somebody or something advantage. And also, let's not forget Halfling Lock.
And also cutting words. If you don't want to give your team advantage, you can give the other team disadvantage.
Absolutely.
Also, Cloud of Daggers. Block one of those room entrances with a Cloud of Daggers. If they move in, they take 4d4 damage. Now, downside of Cloud of Daggers, it cannot be moved. So once it's there, it's there. But if you want to place guarded, you got it.
Yeah, I also see a potential for this Halfling Bard working with the Wizard, right? Because he can Misty Step through that Cloud of Daggers.
Oh, very true. You know, most people, honestly, you're like the only person I know who uses the teleports as a way to get in. Most people use them as an escape.
Yeah, I mean, it's very important to remember that anything that can be used as a retreat typically can be used as a point to gain some ground. I see this bard for using that potion of slipperiness. I also see them using that pretty consistently, using that movement potion, because once that bard has a little bit more movement speed, it's going to be really hard to catch them. They're going to be going higher in that initiative order, and you know, you're constantly going to be dealing with the advantage disadvantage game that bard's going to be able to play on top of those spells, right? Like I said, I see that Misty Step from the Wizard and that bard working really, really closely in tandem. You know, close off a wall, teleport through that Cloud of Daggers, turn around and shatter the shit out of them.
All right, let's move on to the last bard, and only one more character after this. So we are almost done. The Tiefling Bard, Valor Bard. First off, don't see where this is coming from, but actually, no, now I do. A 17 AC, the highest AC flat for any character in this.
Yeah, it's also coupled with the idea that
Half-plate.
he has
He's
the same
wearing
longbow
half-plate.
as. Yeah, let's also keep in mind he has the same range. He has the same longbow as the ranger.
Yeah, no, I like this bard. Yeah, you have range. Now, you're not be dealing anywhere near enough damage as that. What? It feels so weird to be talking so highly of a ranger. I'm sorry. But you won't be dealing anywhere near as much damage, but you do have True Strike. Also, you have Thunderwave, Heroism, Heat Metal. Now, you pointed out earlier how many of those characters have metal armor on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Almost all of them. So that means that your Heat Metal, your Shocking Grasp, most of the characters have metal weapons. As a matter of fact, I don't think, with the exception of the Ranger and this character, I think the predominant main weapon that they have are made of metal.
Yep. Also, Hellish Rebuke because he's a tiefling. And Shatter. Now, the downside of this Shatter is, unlike the wizards, he will hit his friends.
Right, yeah. You're going to have to make a decision between using the longbow and using the Shatter in this case. But if you get... I would save that Shatter for when the opposing team decides it's time to heal. I feel that would probably be the most appropriate use of that spell. I also... Let's keep in mind that this bard still has inspiration. There's nothing saying he can't inspire himself.
Yes, there is, actually. You only inspire another creature.
Oh, yeah, well, fine. Be that way.
No, I think
maybe
Valor...
if he had a little more personality, he could inspire himself. But that being said, he still has access to inspiration, so that's still a threat.
Valor bards, actually, that is their last ability at high level, is to inspire themselves. That being said, it's still, you're giving your teammates a D6, and unlike the other one, what is their second use? I don't think they have a second use of inspiration, so you're going to be tossing it on your friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so last character.
Also, keep in mind that guy had a +3 initiative score.
Yeah, so he's going earlier in the round. Now, to all the other players in my group chat right now, I want your opinion. If you could choose 4 of these characters, if you've heard anything that we've been saying, what 4 characters would you choose? Because that's what's going to be, like, the main thing is, if you could choose a list of these 4 characters, which ones would you want? But we got to cover the Warlock still.
And now for the only gnome.
Yeah, the only gnome, because apparently they're gnomists. 31 HP on another caster. This is a high health caster, but with only 12 armor. Nothing surprising on his stats, with charisma being a 17. I kind of want to see that as an 18, though.
Yeah, I mean...
Equipment
They'll probably save the point to put it in something else, because it's still going to be a +3.
Agreed. If we go to 18, it's +4. But, so...
Oh, yeah. Not my bad on that.
Yeah.
You're right.
Dagger, hand axe, and quarterstaff. Now, if I had the monk in the party, I'm tossing that guy the quarterstaff. If the DM doesn't allow it, oh well. But that's what I would do.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, because the monk didn't have a quarterstaff.
No, he didn't have any weapons. So for top level spells, Shatter, Phantasmal Force, Misty Step. For first level spells, Mage Armor. Cantrips, we have True Strike. Wow, he has like 6 cantrips. True Strike, Poison Spray, Minor Illusion, Mage Hand, Eldritch Blast, Chill Touch, and Blade Ward. Now, earlier, we said that we did not see any really control magics going on. But here's my point. What if you Minor Illusion a wall in front of one of those doors?
Yeah, that's got potential. I wasn't even thinking about minor illusion. That's a really good point.
We haven't really seen any like straight up control spells. Like, I'm very sad not to see Crown of Madness. I understand why the designers did this, to stop, from turning a fight around instantaneously by taking over control of another person's character. that would suck for that other person. But you have someone with minor illusion. That will become useful. Shatter, great spell. We've already talked about it twice already, but no control over it. Phantasmal Force.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of unfamiliar with that spell.
It creates an illusion of a creature that you want, and basically that creature attacks and goes against the enemy, but the enemy gets to make an intelligence check, investigation, to see if they can tell that it's an illusion. Otherwise, it affects them as if it was a completely real, dealing 1d6 damage every round.
Interesting. I wonder if you'd have to pick something that wasn't a beast, though. Because if you pick something that's a beast, you're giving an advantage to the ranger.
Also, we're talking about this is an Archfey warlock. So once per short rest, as an action, you can cause each creature in a 10-foot cube from you to make a Wisdom save or be charmed. There's your control effect.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be real tough to deal with because a lot of the characters on this list don't have a lot of wisdom. It was a pretty strong character. I think you're going to see it very consistently in the meta.
He was banned.
He was banned.
Also,
I don't know if I would write out ban this character. In my opinion, I think I would single him out, and I would keep an eye on whether there's a good player across the board that's able to play this character. But I wouldn't necessarily outright ban him high in the order.
Yep. Also, his Eldritch Invocations are Agonizing Blast, which gives him +3 damage on his hit with Eldritch Blast. And also Armor of Shadows. He can cast Mage Armor at will without expending a spell slot. So there you go. You have an answer to help your low-armored teammates.
Oh, in that
or
case,
yourself.
Yeah. Ban.
Yeah, no, straight up. I think this is my fourth band fourth band pick is this guy right here. He got through actually. Pobus got through. One of the characters got him, and that's how they won. Was blasting somebody with a shatter. Rob, I think you timed out.
Hello.
Yep, you're back.
Okay, yeah, I feel like he has a lot of damage potential that's going to be consistent with his cantrips. Eldritch Blast is a really good spell. And yeah, that Mage Armor's, that's an issue. But let's keep in mind that Mage Armor, it just changes your damage calculation. So it's going to be effective for him to use it on himself. It's not necessarily going to be super effective for the other characters in the party.
Yeah, I mean, it could be used on the wizard, but either way, you're giving yourself you're taking this 31 health caster and giving him a 15 AC.
Yeah, exactly. But he's also going to have to expend some of those very, very important turn actions in order to make that happen.
Yep. All right. So we've seen all the characters. If you could choose 4 characters for your team, Rob. Give it a second to think about it. What would you choose?
Sure.
No picks, no bans. Just choose 4.
The list on the Twitch so I can make a choice.
Oh, you son of a bitch. You've been reading off the goddamn Twitch.
I told you I was.
I thought you were reading off on your own computer.
No, I tried that, and then I was looking at too many things at once, and I said, screw that. So I think first off, without any bans, and this is going to sound really strange, I would pick the Monk.
Yeah, Davos. For positioning alone, I would totally take Davos.
Right, and the reason I say that is because I would start my selection process with Davos, because if I didn't get Davos, I'm going to need someone else who's supplementary between the range and the close combat.
Also, if you get Davos, you can slide up to those potion spots real quick and grab him.
Exactly, which would be very, very high on my priority list. The next thing I would do is I would make a choice between the 2 paladins. I would, if the so without pick and ban, so if I didn't get banned, I would definitely pick the Tiefling Paladin first.
Huh. See, I would have gone with Gregor. The damage potential on him, as we said, is slightly higher.
Yeah. This is also keeping in mind if they don't let me have the Barbarian. If they don't let me have the Barbarian, and I'm assuming I'm only going to get a Paladin, I'm going to make sure that I have a good player that knows how to play the Tiefling Paladin well, knows how to position that wall where it needs to be, and we can worry about giving him resistances as needed. So the rest of the party, specifically the monk I chose in the beginning, can work around him and start fighting with advantages. Because keep in mind, we don't have a rogue that's going to consistently have sneak attack damage.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to list off my 4 because I want to take a 5-minute break before we get into the regular D&D, and I don't want to keep the rest of our players holding on us. My 4 would be, if I had any choice of all, Grundal the Barbarian. I would choose Davos the Monk, Kraylin the Wizard, and Cephas the Cleric. Cephas for his heals, Kraylin because of the mass damage he can deal, Davos because of positioning, and Grundal because he's a fucking monster.
Yeah, Grundal is without a doubt some of the absolutely most devastating thing on that field. So are you gonna start up a new window for a different part of the channel, like separate the videos is what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm gonna log out of Twitch for 5 minutes, pop back in so it separates the videos.
Word. That'll give me enough time to grab a drink. So,
all right.
Thank you everybody for listening about our first post about Team Kobold versus Team Mind Flayer, and also a review on the current meta and the rules and formats that go forward as we analyze RPG Sports and take part in RPG Sports going forward.
Hopefully.
No hope. We make things happen.
Fair enough.
Don't hope things happen.
So the next time they are playing is next Saturday at 12 PST on the 17th. It'll be Team Tarask versus Team Beholder. The winner of that will go against one of the other teams. Either probably will be going against Kobold for a $5,000 prize.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I don't know anything about the additional 2 teams. I'm excited to see how they analyzed the pick and ban, and I'm also interested to see if they let Hobus be a thing, because I think that after watching the damage threshold of that Warlock, they're going to ban it. Also, I know they're not going to let that Barbarian walk around unless they have a definitive plan for trying to stop that Barbarian. So
yeah, they're probably also going to stop Zune because he hit for massive damage on the third turn with a quickened cast Scorching Ray.
Yeah, and I'd be interested to see which of the clerics, if any, I'd be interested to see between the clerics and the paladins which come first, because I don't see the druid being banned right out, but I do see the clerics or paladins coming in as well. So I'd be interested to see which of them they ban, if any. I definitely think that stopping that last turn massive heal is very important, because Cephas can do that, and that would be very interesting to see if any of them get banned or if they get picked.
All right. Well, thank everyone for watching. It'll be a 5-minute cut in the stream so that we can separate the streams, and we'll be back right afterwards for our regular D&D session.